I've worked with 3 people in the last month that have had this same pattern in their body. Stiff hamstrings, causing a lot of rounding when you bend over, right? And nowhere near being able to touch your toes. And really tight front of the shoulder to where you can't really get your arms behind you comfortably. And what usually accompanies this, because it's kind of a classic desk position, is really tight wrists as well, right? If you're struggling to get your wrist bent this way, then that's a little bit of an issue, and that's what we're gonna focus on in this routine right now. So do this with me, follow along. We're gonna start with hands on our thighs, and we're gonna push our hips backwards like this. Now, we don't want to round the spine, right? So what I want you to think is proud chest, hips travel backwards. And we'll just go down as low as feels comfortable for you right now. Now, the key here, and what most people can't do who have really tight hamstrings, is lift your tailbone. This is anterior pelvic tilt, right? So this is the opposite way, tucking. This is anterior tilt. So just do this a few times. Try to feel comfortable with moving your pelvis. A lot of people are so stuck in their pelvis, we can't even do this, right? So just getting this control is gonna be really, really beneficial. So once we feel like we have that and we can lift our tailbone, now we're gonna slightly straighten the knees, and then we're gonna come back to bent, right? And we're just gonna do this about 10 times here. Keep on lifting that tailbone, boom, straighten, and come right back. And what's really nice here is when we straighten, we don't have to hold there for too long, so we can kind of push ourselves into that really stretched position of those hamstrings. Maybe come from a little bit lower, cameraman, to get this, feel a good stretch, hamstrings and calves, then come back. Now, as you loosen up here, you'll find that you can probably get your torso a little bit lower. And the goal is to work to 90 degrees at the hip, so torso is parallel to the ground. But we might start here, and over time, start to get that, right? And you'll find over the course of just one set that your body will release a little bit and allow more range of motion. So let's go, last one. I want you to hold with the knees straight for 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whew. Relax. Okay, big stretch for the hamstrings there, right? So we're not doing this type of thing or sitting on the ground and, you know, reaching forward like this. We need to be very intentional about our pelvis position to put those hamstrings on stretch. Now, the next one, we're gonna move into stretching this front of the shoulder, right? Which is the other issue that a lot of the time we have trouble with in this posture. So let's place the hands behind us here. Fingers are gonna face away or behind us or kind of in the middle. I like to do a little diagonal. We're gonna slightly lift the hips off the ground. Just feel how this feels for you here. Now, some people might be a little bit rounded right here. Do everything you can to open that chest, lift the sternum to the sky. We're just gonna spend a few seconds here. Take some breaths. Feel like you have a hook and a line pulling your sternum upward to the ceiling. We're just getting that proud chest. Now, from here, we're gonna move those hips towards our heels and notice that that's gonna pull my arms behind me while maintaining my proud chest. Now we're gonna come back. You can set the hips down if you want a little rest. We lift up and we go again. Breathe. And a lot of the time, settling that breath, taking nasal breaths here, gonna help you relax your chest, your front of the shoulder, your biceps. These are all the things that get really stiff from sitting. Good. And see if you can just feel more comfortable in this deeper shoulder extended position as you go, right? So this last one, I want you to hold with the butt close to the heels here, lifted the chest. You might start to get a little small cramps in your shoulders. If you do, that's okay. Good things are going on, and release back. Very nice. Okay, So with that, we also got a little bit of wrist stretching as well, right? Simply by putting your hands on the ground like this, you can really bring and restore a lot of this stiff wrist stuff that's going on from being on keyboards so much. So let's just do that right now. We're gonna get our shoulders right over our hands, and I want you to just start to press through the ground and lift the knees. Two more. So just by loading our wrists in this position where we should be able to get our shoulders over our hands, our wrists are gonna be gaining a lot of that flexibility back. And if that's too intense, just keep your knees on the ground and just practice rocking those shoulders to over the hands. And for those of you guys that can handle the knees off the ground, we can kind of rock forward with the knees off the ground. Boom. If everybody did that daily, we'd have so much less wrist issues. Now the last one that we're gonna go over is what tight hamstrings and tight shoulders accumulate into. A lot of the time is a really stiff spine, right? We can't get movement like we should. Our spine should be able to move in a figure-8 motion, but we get really locked down. So very easy, low-hanging fruit movement that we can do. It's called a windshield wiper. So we go on the ground like so, we lift the knees, and then we're gonna let them fall to one side of our body. Now, if you're really, really stiff in the shoulder, you're gonna come up like this, and you're just gonna do your best to press that shoulder down into the ground. And we're gonna go from side to side. Now this is going to stretch the front of the shoulder, but what I love about this is we get this spiral stretch from shoulder down through the torso into the hip as well. And our body is not just isolated muscles that do one thing, right? They all work together in these fascia lines. So we need to think about expanding them together. And a lot of the time that involves putting a little bit of rotation into your movements in your spine. So for those of you guys that are feeling good here, what you can start to do, press the knees together. And that is going to make it so the pelvis gets a little bit more locked, and this position gets way more challenging. You can see me fighting to kind of get that shoulder down. We can spend a few more seconds here. And other side, so I press my knees together, come down. It's always gonna be a little bit of a shoulder being down and your knees kind of shifting a little bit, because the more that this knee pulls backward, the easier this is. The more I keep this knee forward, woo, that's a big stretch right there. Let's do one more on each side. Okay. So guys, a super simple routine, takes you under 10 minutes to do. Go through it once. You can do this daily, every other day, but you're gonna be hitting those problem areas. And once you do it, you'll know if these are problem areas. If you're having really, really difficult time getting into these positions, these stretches are really worth your time. Now, when you start to feel good, put it back on, repeat it another time through. Hope you guys enjoyed it, as always.